Listen now, we the talk around town. Alex threw the ball to Smokey for a touchdown. It's fourth down and you don't really want no more. We've been winning from the door. You should check the scoreboard. Check the scoreboard.
Welcome back to another episode of the Scoreboard. Everybody, it is Thanksgiving week, and it's also NFL Week 12. So the season's coming to the crucial part. It's about to be crunch time for a lot of these teams, and we have some interesting games. Some very important games, actually, this week with playoff implications on the line. But Smoke, first of all, how are you doing? And how are our standings?
Oh, man, I'm doing good. I'm better than Vikings fans right now because they started thinking they were invincible, and then they got smacked with a sledgehammer upside the face this week. And it's not that your team is bad, Vikings fans. You guys are probably going to rebound and still have a great season. It's just that you weren't quite as invincible as you thought you were, and the team found that out this week. They went up against a great defense. But as far as our predictions go, you actually made up a point on me this week. We disagreed on the Bears and Falcons. You won that one. The Jets and Patriots. You won that one. And the Raiders Broncos. And I got that one. So that makes 9 for me and 10 for you, bringing our total on the season 99 for me and 98 for you.
It's close. Man, picking the Jets was kind of gifting me a point, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Not because they're bad or anything, but because this is just how it goes. The punt return at the end of the game it's the perfect illustration of exactly what I mean, though, right? Mm-hmm. That's how New England wins. That's how they've always won, and that's how the Jets lose if they lose.
They can't get over the hump. They just can't do it, no matter what. And that was an ugly game, man. That was a horrible game.
The game itself deserved a 3-3 tie because no one could play any offense at all. Jets barely crossed the 50, but that's how the Patriots have been winning for 2.5 decades now, and they still do it. So there we go. They have a challenge coming up this week. Let's say that, but our predictions are getting close. So I need to make up one more point. That would be tied again, which would be great. We've tied a lot, by the way. I don't know how we're doing it, but we're really good at it. Let's talk about MVP rankings, and there's not a lot to say about this. I told you before the show you're gonna like my MVP list. It's because it's the exact same list from last week. There's nothing has changed in the top 5. Mahomes is number 1 because he didn't blunder it away. He played fine, although it was closer than it should have been because the Chargers are completely decimated. But Justin Herbert's a monster, so he kept it in it. Tua's number 2, so he had a bye week, couldn't really have blundered it away. Josh Allen's still number 3. He played fine, played well, but he didn't completely tear the roof off. So there's no good reason for me to say he's overtaking Tua and Mahomes, and it's still all very close to the top between those 3 guys who, in my opinion, are the only 3 guys that can realistically win it. At 4 still Geno Smith. At 5 still Joe Burrow. Geno obviously had the bye week, can't say much. Joe Burrow won a good game, but nothing life-changing. And then the 3 names that are in the hunt to me: Jalen Hurts, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Lamar Jackson. So yeah, you may have noticed I said Jimmy Garoppolo, and a lot of people will jump on me for that for all sorts of reasons, because somehow it's popular to not like Garoppolo and to discredit him for everything ever, right? Jimmy Garoppolo is 5th in the league, top 5 in the league in passer rating, which is by far and away the most important and most all-encompassing quarterback stat. He's winning games. He's not throwing picks. The only quarterback in the entire league with more touchdowns, less interceptions than Garoppolo is Tua, who's in the league all by himself. Listen, Jimmy Garoppolo, but by every conceivable metric, needs to be at least in this conversation. Now, he's not going to win it because he missed too many games and they run the ball too much. He doesn't have the yards that someone like Tua, like Patrick Mahomes, rocks up. He doesn't have the additional, he's not a runner, right? He doesn't gain yards on the ground, so he just doesn't have that kind of production. But from a quarterback standpoint, there's absolutely nothing to suggest that Jimmy Garoppolo is not playing at an elite quarterback level. I know no one wants to believe this. I know no one wants this to be true, but it is true, and there is nothing to disprove it whatsoever in the stats. I've tried. I have looked. I didn't want to include him on this list because I knew people will discredit me for including him on the list. But the stats don't allow me to exclude him from the list. There's my take. What do you think? What do you think, Spurgy?
Well, I think this may be the first week that I absolutely agree with you. I kind of got a separation here. Mahomes, Tua, and Allen are up there at the top, and I think Mahomes is actually number one right now. And Tua, the only reason he's not number one at this point in time, of course, the games that he did not play, but also he had a bye this week, so he couldn't be out there proving himself even more. Mahomes played fairly well with that 50% completion rate, but neither Mahomes nor Allen were throwing picks, so I mean that's a good thing that goes in their favor. I gotta say Mahomes is number one at this time, but I think Tua's gonna come back and take over. And then there is a great distance between those three and the rest of the pack. Like you mentioned, Geno, Hurts, Jimmy G, Burrow. I don't think any of those guys have a realistic chance. And Kirk Cousins took himself completely out of the running this week. That was a horrible game. But yeah, pretty much I agree with you this week.
All right, good. That's good to hear. So for me, steady rankings from last week. We'll see how it changes. I think at some point I'm only going to start I'm just going to do the top three, because it really at this point seems like we have three names that can realistically win. Just Mahomes, Tua, and Allen. Those are the only like a lot would have to happen for something like Geno or Joe Burrow. Yes. Or Jalen Hurts even to get back into the conversation, and that I don't feel that particularly likely. So at the end of the year, we're going to start talking more and more about the same few names. But you can go to the channel page, the channel community page, and vote for your MVP favorite if the season ended today. What is your opinion? And by the way, public opinion has shifted over the past few weeks. We had, there was a long time we had Josh Allen, pretty much unanimous Josh Allen vote. Favorite from last week's actually Tua. So most people on our poll said Tua should be the MVP. I'm curious to see what you think this week after he had the bye. Do we stick with him? Do we give it to Mahomes? Or what's the take? And also, we have to look at the upcoming schedule, right? Because now it actually becomes important how many of those run up the score games does each of these quarterbacks have? Because that's what it's going to take at the end of the day to actually... They're all going to win. They're all going to make the playoffs, but... who will be able to have the most impressive performances. So we're going to get into that, and we're going to get right into it as well with a possible opportunity to run up the score, maybe for Josh Allen, who's invited to play football in Turkey at Detroit. I will say the Lions have a 3-game win streak going, so maybe we shouldn't underestimate them. But what do you think?
Oh, the Lions are an offensive juggernaut. I mean, if you took out like 2 to 3 of their bad games right there in the middle, these guys put up tons of points. So on a Bills defense that's kind of lacking at this point, which we thought was much better at the beginning of the season, they're giving up points, and this could be a game in the end. Now the Giants were depleted, so I'm not giving anything to the Lions defense because the Giants just there's no one to throw to. It's just Saquon, and Jones does what he does. So there's no one else on that team that's really worth anything. So I'm not going to say the Lions defense is doing anything great when they held them to 18 points. But this is not going to be a contest on paper. I just think it's Thanksgiving, being at home, this might not be the blowout we thought it was earlier in the season. But I will still take the Bills to win this one on the road.
Yeah, like 3-4 weeks ago, we would have thought this is going to be probably the worst blowout on the entire schedule this year. And now it's looking a little bit more respectable with the Lions having played the way they've played. But you're completely right. I'm not gonna lean this far and just suggest that the Lions should be favored or should win this game, even at home, even Thanksgiving. In fact, Buffalo knows the stadium. They've played in Detroit last week. Well, the Lions were on the road, which is odd, but that's what happened to the snow in Orchard Park. So Bills are 10-point favorites in this one, and I totally agree with it. Buffalo should win this one. They're the better team. The Giants at the Cowboys.
Man, I kind of feel sorry for the Giants. I wanted to ride that bandwagon, and they were good for the first 8-9 games of the season. The Giants were great. They were playing well, but they are just way too depleted. They even lost Wan'Dale Robinson in this one. That's their only chance at having somewhat of a superstar receiver. Now it's back to Darius Slayton. Can we call up Sterling Shepard? Get somebody out there, please. Odell. Let's get Odell back. That's an option at this point, maybe. But the Giants are about to run into this defensive juggernaut. So now there's no doubt about that. The Cowboys defense is lighting the world up, and I would be completely scared, especially when a depleted offense like this. There's no offensive line out there. Like, there's practice squad guys running out on the field. I will take the Cowboys to dominate this one at home.
This feels like such a good, like, upset pick. It feels like the right, like, in the sense of, like, the morally just thing to do would be to pick the Giants. And if the universe were just, the Giants would 100% win the game just because of all the circumstances that come together. It's Dallas, it's a Thanksgiving. They just blew out the best team in the league. Jerry Jones thinks they're going to the Super Bowl. Everything would be coming together. I'm not going to put my own betting life on the line with this one, though. Because Dallas they look good. They look good. I'm still going to trust them to not, like, to choke in the playoffs. But, man, they look good. And the Giants aren't looking as good. Well, they're still looking good. Not as good as they did start of the season. Certainly not as good as Dallas. So, Cowboys to take it at home. But I'm hoping the opposite is true. I want to be wrong on this. Patriots at the Vikings.
Well, what do we make of that? A 3-3 defensive battle, and then a Vikings team who could only put up a very small amount of points. I really don't. I mean, I do, like I said at the beginning of the show, I think the Vikings are going to rebound. I think this offense can get it back together. I think that was a snap back to reality. I think it was a check for them. A team that can hold someone to 3 points going against a team that only can score 3 points. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Vikings get it going. They are at home here. The Patriots will put up a fight, but the Vikings should win this one at home.
This is a tough one to pick. And by the way, the odds makers actually like New England in this one.
Really?
The Vikings are at home, so they get 3 points, but they're only listed as 2.5 point favorites. So Vegas is saying on a neutral field, New England's actually favored to win this game.
That's crazy.
Which is a lot to say, and it goes to show, like, the respect they have for New England, which, again, they tend to prove more, like, to everyone's dismay, but they keep proving it. And the Vikings, of course, they got blown out. They look awful. They look like a practice squad. Last team you would expect that off of, but this does not look like an elite team at all. And the same argument maybe could be made that was also made for the Eagles a long time. Their schedule is sort of cupcake. With the Packers being as bad as they are, this division's terrible. Both Vikings and Eagles are playing a very, very light schedule. And it opens yourself up to, like, being maybe a bit overrated. Not to say that the Vikings aren't a good team. They're certainly a good team. But this is actually tough to pick. And I'm going to go Minnesota as well, because they're playing at home. I want to say they get it together. They prove that they are a good team. Good teams don't lose games like this in this fashion back-to-back weeks. If they lose this one and it's bad, we really have to talk about them. Yeah. But I think they're going to prove that they're not bad, and they're going to bounce back against the Patriots. Who, by the way, the Patriots are good too. So it's a close one. But I'm saying Minnesota with the offensive firepower, because they have just a little bit more than the Jets, right, in terms of receiving talent and basically anything.
Yeah.
Ravens at the Jaguars.
Yeah, and that almost felt like Tennessee, like a college game, where a college team musters up a few wins and everybody's on their side. Like, this is the number one team, and then they run up against a real defensive juggernaut and get blown out.
Complete blowout. Yeah. Wow.
Who are we on? I'm sorry.
Let's go with the Broncos and Panthers to stay in order.
Yeah, I was just thinking that's not who I have next. Broncos and Panthers. Panthers are not good. Neither are the Broncos. This makes this tough. I mean, I did see that Darnold is going to start this game. I don't know that gives them an advantage at all. I think P.J. Walker, Baker Mayfield, and Sam Darnold are all on an even playing field right now. This team cannot get it together. But neither Russell Wilson looks like he's done, so I can't say that gives them an advantage. I guess who's capable of putting on points? I'll go with the Broncos on the road. I really don't know.
Okay, listen, I'll take the Panthers. Okay, it's not that I'm like this super big believer in Darnold being the superhero that will turn this around. The team stinks, obviously. He came into the season hurt. and they've been shuffling quarterbacks back and forth. I really doubt that he'll be a noticeable enough upgrade over either of the other two guys at this point to really make an impact there. But again, the Broncos are bad. They're terrible. They can't score. They can't play offense. They suck. So I'm going to say new guy, no scouting tape this year. And if he's bad, just bring PJ Walker back in at half and maybe he'll do fine. Either way, the team's bad. So Carolina to win. They're at home. I'm going to take him. Maybe give Sam Darnold another win. Remember Sam Darnold in his first quarter season in Carolina, he was on MVP trajectory.
He was.
The first 3 weeks of last year, he was tearing it up. So maybe he can get back to that. Then he got sick. Then he got injured. So maybe he can pick it back up. Who knows? So I'll take the Panthers. Bucks at the Browns.
Yeah, this is a question of which one of these teams are going to show up. Are we going to see the Bucks that can get an offense going, or just a defense-oriented team that's going to run the ball because Brady apparently can't throw? But then again, there are flashes. There are those drives where we see Brady look like he's still the old Brady. He just can't do that for, and let alone an entire game. I don't think he can do that for an entire quarter at this time. I think he just hits that zone every now and then. But the Browns, are we going to see the Browns that are actually fighting to stay alive, or is it tank time? It might just be tank time. I don't know. Brissett might be fighting for his job at this point. Watson's definitely got it, but maybe Brissett's fighting for another job next season. Who knows? I'll take the Bucks on the road. They should win this one.
This is like a matchup of two teams that their biggest strength is if they can run the ball, and that stink if they cannot run the ball.
Yes.
They don't have a lot else. Now, Tampa Bay can play defense, and I think that's why I'm going to pick them, because they're playing better defense than Cleveland. This is probably going to be a low-scoring game. This is probably going to be a run-heavy game, and I'm going to rely on the defense for Tampa to get it done, pretty much. Deshaun Watson is not back this week. He'll be available next week, so that's going to be week 13 when they play the Texans. Coincidentally, he will be back for the Browns, but against Tampa Bay, I'm going to say this defense gets it done, keeps the Browns to less than 10 points probably, and they win in Cleveland. Ravens at the Jaguars.
I wouldn't have thought this would be a tough one, but it really is. You look at the Ravens. They could only muster up 13 points over the Panthers at home. Give it, a lot of their options are down. A lot of the receiving options are down, and their running backs, it is what it is. I mean, we're still playing with guys that they signed off the streets and stuff, and maybe Gus will be back. Maybe that'll give him a little bit of a spark. Lamar doesn't look good at all, and maybe this is a lean towards the Jags coming off a bye here, but the Jags have not been wonderful outside of the first few games of the season and a couple right before the bye. This is really tough. I want to know if the Ravens are going to get right here. I'm going to say the Ravens go down to Jacksonville and have a get right game and win this one on the road.
Man, it is tough. It really, really is tough to pick, and nothing that we expect. Lamar Jackson is one of those guys that kind of silently retreated out of the MVP conversation 3 weeks back, and no one really noticed. But now if you brought a name up, it would be pretty ridiculous, I think. I mentioned him as number 8 on my list, but realistically, there's really no chance. No chance for him anymore. And the Jaguars feel like they've been in no man's land all year. They can't really decide if they're supposed to be a breakout team or if they're supposed to suck. So they're sort of in the middle. Some great performances, but then they regress back. This is difficult. I'm gonna give the nod to the better coach in this case. So I'm gonna go with John Harbaugh and the Baltimore Ravens. I'm gonna say experience wins, and I'm gonna say probably another low-scoring game as well. Texans at the Dolphins.
Well, finally one that is not tough to figure out right here. The Texans are the worst team in the league at this point in time. Maybe the Panthers could give them a run, but the Panthers do have 3 wins, whereas the Texans do not. They have that 1 win and 1 tie, and that was a lucky tie there, and a lucky win for that matter. The Dolphins are coming back to destroy the Texans at home. Tua is going to light up the field. I'll take the Dolphins.
Absolutely take the Dolphins, 13-point favorites, and I'm even willing to take this prop bet. I'm going to give you an extra bold prediction as bonus content for this week's episode. Dolphins are going to come out of this game with 3 100 yards receivers. That's my bold prediction. I'm not sure if that's ever happened. Maybe very rarely. Maybe like a Welker, Edelman, Gronk kind of, or maybe the Chiefs has done it at some point. That's quite possible, but that's usually not what happens a whole lot. But I'm gonna say that's what happens this time in Miami, and they're gonna have a party for sure. Bears at the Jets.
I have to ask, who's gonna be number 3? What is it, Gesicki or Mostert or what?
It'll probably be Gesicki. I would say it could be like, I don't know, like Trent Sherfield or something.
Oh wow.
Because all it really needs is one of those like vertical concept bombs that they're on. He happens to be the right guy to line up. Like second receiver maybe lines up on the perimeter, and you have Tyreek in the slot, and he's running the clear route or something. They have a lot of home run potential, right? So all you need is that 2 or 3 more completions, and you add 100. And we know that Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, like, they get 100 every game. So like 2 of them are pretty much a given. I'm gonna say one other player gets it done. Who? I'm not gonna specify it because that maybe makes it too bold of a prediction, but we'll see.
Bears and Jets. This is kind of tough now, considering what happened last week. The Jets couldn't muster up enough points to beat the Patriots, who couldn't muster up enough points to beat most people in the league. But it is what it is. We've discussed that. The Bears, man, Justin Fields was on a breakout without getting wins. Like, it's crazy how well he has been playing. And it's mostly on the ground. Of course, this is a run first. And that offensive line is so bad that he kind of has to run. A lot of them are designed runs if you watch it. But then again, there's a bunch of scrambles in there also. But he's hurt now. He's got this shoulder issue. He's been banged up. And that's because of that offensive line. He has been beat to shreds already in this season. The kid has so much potential. If they don't get an offensive line in there, he is going to have a very short career. That's all there is to it. I think I'll just take the Jets at home here.
I'll take the Jets as well. And there's one big trap here that the Jets need to pay attention to not to fall into, which is that talks have been about the quarterback change, right? And Robert Saleh talked about that Zach Wilson's job is now up in the air. Listen, you're having your best season in 12 years, Jets, and that's definitely like not to your credit at all, but it is the fact. You're overperforming miles above what everyone thought you would. We thought this would be the team that would fire the first coach. We thought this would be a candidate for the top 5 pick. And they're actually they're on the winning record, like they're actually competing for an AFC wildcard spot. You don't make any changes, man. Zach Wilson's in his second year. He's having a relatively good year. Yeah, he had a terrible game. That's Belichick. That's the Patriots. That's what happens. Everyone has terrible games against the Patriots. That's why they're the Patriots. Don't overreact to that. It's happened twice. I told you it was going to happen twice. I said before the game was going to happen with the Jets because it was going to happen. It was inevitable, or close to inevitable, because that's how this goes. You don't bench Zach Wilson. You don't even talk about benching Zach Wilson. He's played in these conditions on this team that's just finding some stabilization with not a whole lot of help on the receiving end. His possible Pro Bowl running back went down. You drafted good on defense, build around the guy, give him another year and a half at least. I'm going to say against the Bears, kind of things go back to normal. Zach Wilson has a good game, nothing insane, but he has a good game, and they're going to win. Big on the backs of their defense, that's what they're built to do, because they're built, by the way, very similar to the Patriots. If we look at what's developing in New York, this is a very Patriots-ish system that's suddenly being built up there. So they're going to win, keep Justin Fields kind of contained, and get back and right the ship. Bengals at the Titans.
Wow, these teams are so similar to me. Let's look at the level of competition here. They both beat blue blood teams in the Packers and the Steelers. However, the Packers and the Steelers are both having their worst seasons in modern history, and it's very unusual. But given that, they are still putting up a ton of points, both of these teams. They were both on the road and got the win. This is really tough. It really is. I want to say that the Bengals have a much more explosive offense, and outside of Derrick Henry, what do you have at receiving options for the Titans? The Bengals definitely have a more explosive offense. We need Chase back in there, that's for sure. They could put up even more points, but they are scoring at will at this time. I'm going to take the better quarterback here. Go with Joe Burrow and the Bengals on the road.
That was going to be my exact argument as well, and then you took it away. So I don't have much to add. Yeah, I'll take the better quarterback. I'll take Burrow. Even though the Titans are at home, I'm going to say Bengals more talented, and I'm going to say Burrow and that passing game get it done. Falcons at the Washington.
Oh, man. This is tough because the Falcons, as we saw, and you picked them, so kudos on that. Mm-hmm. But if I would have picked them, they probably would have lost. And that's the issue. Of course. Here.
Yeah.
That's the
you can't
issue.
win.
Exactly. The Commanders look good, though. I mean, they're not bad at all. I mean, but it was the Texans, so I guess competition relevant here. Oh, God, I want to pick the Falcons, but I can't. You know what? I can't do it. The Falcons are on the road. I'm going to let you pick the Falcons if you are, and hopefully the Falcons will win, but I will pick the Commanders at home.
I'm picking the Falcons to go to Washington and beat the Commanders.
Good.
Of course I am, right? Free point, as far as I can tell. No, listen, Washington's been good. Taylor Heineke, suddenly they're competing. It's kind of incredible to me. And I still feel like it could be smokescreen and not the real deal. So I'm going to say Atlanta gets it done. By the way, I've warmed up to the idea of calling them the Washington Commies. So maybe I'm going to go with that.
Definitely
for
not
the future.
problematic at all.
No. It seems pretty good, though. Seems pretty good. Chargers at the Cardinals.
Well, let's see. Cardinals got blown out by the 49ers on Monday night. And the entire world saw it. That is embarrassing. Colt McCoy. Are we going to get Kyler back here? I don't know. I think that's still up in the air at this point in time. Chargers, were leading against probably the consensus top 3 team in the NFL in power rankings. I want to say they have a much more explosive offense because of that, especially if Colt McCoy is going to play. I will definitely take the Chargers on the road here.
I will also take the Chargers. I love that the Cardinals are on in-season Hard Knocks, and I'm enjoying every loss they're getting. I cannot wait until that Monday night game is on Hard Knocks so that the entire world can see it again.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's great. I like it. I like it generally when teams on Hard Knocks start to really suck. And you get to see that side of things, because when they win, you already get to see that side of things in their press conference. And having it beat the Cardinals, having it beat division rival, even better, is wonderful. It's great. This is a good development. I hope Justin Herbert get it done. Kyler Murray or Colt McCoy, I don't really care. I want to see the Cardinals lose, and because it's gonna be wonderful television. See, that's the beauty if you're division rivals on Hard Knocks. If they lose, you get to enjoy it twice as original content on TV. So, Chargers to go to the desert and get it done. Raiders at the Seahawks.
Man, I try to tell you, when your quarterback is on the podium after a game crying, that team is going to win next week. That's just how it works, man. I don't make up these rules. I just tell you about them. But here, the Seahawks are coming off of a bye. They should be well rested. That offense is humming. The defense is not bad. Pete Carroll's having another great season. He don't need Russell Wilson. Apparently, Russell was holding him back. I'll take the Seahawks at home.
I'll also take the Seahawks. Think they're the better team, but this is interesting to me. The odds I find weird. Seattle 3.5 point favorite. They're at home, so that's 3 points for home field included. So they're saying this is close to pick'em on a neutral field. I don't know. I guess last thing we saw from Seattle was getting kind of stomped with not a lot of offense to speak of overseas in Europe, so they have had to fly back and forth by a Buccaneers team that's by no means world beaters. And the Raiders did just win a divisional game. That's the only reason I can imagine. Maybe people are expecting the Seahawks to kind of fall off towards the end of the season.
Maybe.
Because they have been overachieving. But this is a free. It's close to a free game as it gets. When the NFC West, the AFC West are playing this year, this is a must-win game, right? Cardinals beat the Raiders already. I think the Rams played them yet. I don't remember, but the Niners are going to beat them. You have to win this game if you're Seattle. So I'm going to say they get it done.
Yeah.
Get it done at home. We have the Rams, speaking of the devil, at the Chiefs.
Yeah, speaking of those two matchups there. The Chiefs are on fire. Chiefs are great. They are always one of the best teams in the league. They have been for the past 7-8 years now. The Rams are bad. This is not the Rams we saw in the Super Bowl. And with all of their players going down, who knows? This team is horrible. They sold their soul to get that one Super Bowl. They got it, and right now they have nothing left. The Chiefs are going to kill them at home.
Man, speaking of enjoying seeing your rivals lose, the Rams are a bigger underdog to the Chiefs than the Texans are to the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, wow.
That's how you know it's bad. 14-point spread. Straight up college football slate. Love to see it. Great, wonderful. Before the season, we thought this was a potential Super Bowl. I'm really glad with how things have turned out in this regard. So yes, Kansas City to win. Both Mahomes, Allen, and Tua, all three of them are getting the opportunity to run up the score, as said at the start, against pretty weak teams. So I like that. And then lastly, I've just noticed the entire NFC West is playing in that exact time slot, the second time slot on Sunday night, because we have the Saints at the Niners.
Yeah, they are. You guys are going to have to do me a favor and really hurt the Saints. They are down. They are at one of their weakest times probably since 2015 or 16, whatever it was. So this is the point where the 49ers need to get them at home and just stomp the life out of them. Just make sure they can't even get back to New Orleans for next week, and we'll be good. I will take the 49ers, who's on a roll. Oh, and also that means that since the Falcons beat the 49ers and the 49ers beat the Saints, we are that much better than the Saints. So
true, yes, very true.
49ers at home.
Consider it done.
Yeah.
I'm gonna agree. I'm gonna agree as well. That's the logical conclusion to this. There's no reason to lose this game whatsoever. There wasn't a lot of a reason to lose against the Falcons, but even now with the upswing the team's experienced, winning like 3 straight. I'm gonna pick the Niners. Niners win. They're back at home. Should be quite comfortable. Doesn't really matter with the quarterback. Then we have a game that we maybe thought would be a bit more interesting than it looks to be, but it's the Packers at the Eagles.
Yeah, I thought the Packers were putting something together until they ran into the Titans here. There is something happening now, especially if you play fantasy football, because Christian Watson might be on your waiver wire. Pick that guy up, because there is a connection there, and this guy is going to be the next Devontae Adams, or barring injury or something like that. Christian Watson is Aaron Rodgers' new guy here. Now, the Eagles did not play well, but neither did the Falcons. They had to eke that out over the Colts, and the Colts are not playing well themselves. Makes it scary, but they were on the road. They were in Indianapolis. They're coming back home for this one, and as beat up as the Packers are, we'll take the Eagles at home.
Yo, this is not as easy to pick as I thought, even just before I said it. Because now you mentioned the Eagles have had a bad 2-game streak just now. Yeah, they were undefeated, but I've kind of made the argument before, like in this very show, if you remember, their schedule is paper thin. I mean, they are playing pastries out there. They have a terribly easy schedule. Now, the division is the hardest part, which is what no one expected, right? The actual NFC East is probably the toughest nut to crack for the Eagles.
Yeah.
Kind of counterintuitively, but it really is. Other than that, this is not a team that has faced a lot of elite competition so far. The Packers aren't elite competition this week, but you said that, it takes one receiver to step up for this team to suddenly become deadly, as we've seen 2 weeks ago when they went to Dallas, who just, by the way, blew out the Vikings and are clearly an elite team, and beat the Cowboys in overtime. And Aaron Rodgers needed just one guy. So it is entirely possible and plausible for Green Bay to win the game. I'll pick the Eagles because they play the better defense, like this significantly better defense. If both of these offenses are kind of mediocre and they're fumbling around and not really going a whole lot anywhere, and the Eagles probably will more reliably so because they're more committed to running the ball than the Packers are, I think Philadelphia has the edge and they're at home. So I'm going to take the Eagles. And then finally Monday night, I have no idea what this is, a highlighted primetime game. Steelers at the Colts.
Who put this on an island? Like, come on,
Who kept
guys.
it? Who kept it on an island?
Exactly.
Doing it in the preseason, okay, I can see, but who kept it there now?
Okay, we got 4 wins for the Colts and 3 wins. Come on. Let's see here. What can I say? There is a connection going on here with the Steelers also, and Pickett to Pickens out in Pittsburgh. That's going to be a future connection to watch out for, because that's going to be a dangerous duo in the seasons to come. Right now, they are both really young, and they haven't quite got it all together. But we have seen the Steelers contend at times, and we have seen the Colts fail quite often this season. I guess with Jeff Saturday, they're playing better, kind of. I mean, they got a win, and then they had a really close one against one of the top 5 teams. That does make it tough. Pickens might not play. I bet if Pickens doesn't play, as bad as Johnson is playing, the Steelers are going to lose. But if Pickens is allowed to play this game after that fight. Now, I just want to say this, too. That's what George does. We knew that down here in Georgia. George likes to fight, and he's going to fight. I mean, one day he's going to run up against a 300-pound offensive lineman or defensive lineman that's probably going to beat the bejesus out of him. But George likes to fight, so that's just going to happen. You got to deal with that, Pittsburgh. Anyways, I think I want to be dangerous and take the Steelers on the road.
Is that the dangerous pick? I'm not sure if there is a dangerous pick here. This is pretty much a pick in my... Yeah. I'm gonna go disagree just to make it a little bit more spicy. Take the Colts. Here's my line of reasoning for it. Number 1, you said it was the Pickens situation, and number 2, here's this. Let me offer you this argument. The Eagles beat the Colts by a point. Okay, a single point. Flip it around. Colts 17, Eagles 16. Is this game even like a big debate? Or are the Colts are they now 6-point favorites? Because guess what? New head coach, 2-game win streak, including number 1 team in the league.
Yeah, I mean that would be.
They held the Eagles to nothing all game. They gave up 1 drive at the very end of it, and they didn't even have to do that. I didn't even know why they did that. The Colts have been playing pretty well. They've played their 2 best games back to back, especially defensively. I'm gonna say Indianapolis. From what I've seen under the Jeff Saturday regime, nothing to convince me that they're lacking motivation and definitely not lacking talent, because they were a playoff team, playoff caliber team last season. They missed the playoffs in hilarious fashion, but I'm gonna take the Colts. Colts get it done against Pittsburgh. So we have 3 disagreements? How many? How many was it?
So yeah, that one.
I have Carolina.
Falcons and Commanders.
Falcons.
And is that just 3? Yeah,
I think that's it.
3 again. So
you took the Jets, right? So both the Jets.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
3 again. Good. That's about the average. I think that's about the average every week is 3 to 4.
Yeah,
sometimes only 2, but 3 I think would be a good average for disagreements.
Except for those times you just want to live dangerous and pick the extreme
Steelers against the Bills. I've done it before. I guess a milder version of that is picking the Panthers this week.
Yeah.
I was gonna do it with the Jaguars maybe, but then I kind of thought better of it when we talked about how they're both being mediocre, and then usually coaching experience matters a lot.
Well, trust me, I thought about the Jags too. That's close in my opinion. I want to say that Lamar is still better than Trevor Lawrence at this point in time. That may change in the seasons to come. Lamar may be hitting a wall here. It's hard to tell.
He might be. Yeah.
I know. An MVP, a former MVP, and a guy that can run with the best of the running backs and receivers in the entire league. But he's not using it right now. And, the rest. Of
he's in that phase of his career now where he's gonna have to do it as a passer.
Yeah.
Because people have understood, like, this is how you defend Lamar Jackson. Take away the run, number one. Take away the pass, number two. Mm-hmm. That's how you defend Lamar Jackson. Those quarterbacks do not have, like, historically, and I said this at the start, yeah, even as unanimous MVP, as great as he was that season, this is not something that lasts. I know this because it's happened too many times, and it's happened to Colin Kaepernick, which I painfully remember, because I thought he was going to be the next superstar for the next 10 years. No. He had one phenomenal season, nobody can stop him. One pretty good season after that, Cam Newton, Robert Griffin, even Michael Vick. And by the way, Jalen Hurts. Yeah. Same thing about to happen. So,
Josh Allen, I mean, he's in that Cam Newton category, so...
Yes, but he's a much better passer than anyone we've named.
That's true. Yeah, he's got the
So if Josh Allen, if you told Josh Allen you are never allowed to run over the line of scrimmage again, he's still a top 5 quarterback. Mm-hmm. So I think that is the difference, and that's where Jackson has to get. By the way, if Jackson can develop into that kind of passer, and they're from the same draft class, then yeah, he's going to be a great one for a long time.
Yeah, I think he can actually. I mean, he has improved so much from college, like as far as passing.
As a passer, yes, immensely. He's not an elite passer.
No.
But he's serviceable, and of course, with the running threat, he's a good quarterback. But is he going back to is he going to win another MVP the way he won that MVP? No. Absolutely not. No shot. So,
well, with the guys that are in the league right now, I don't even think, because Hurts is that type of player, like you said. He's not going to win an MVP. Not with Mahomes and Tua and Allen playing the way they are. Like, it's not a chance you're going to win an MVP with that playing style. Just running without doing something with your arm, it's not possible. You got these giant arms and guys that are extremely accurate, like Tua.
Yeah, and they can run in most cases.
Absolutely. I got one more question before we move on. Who is better now at this point in time? Is it the NFC East or the AFC East? We've been keeping track of that lately.
We have been. Oh, you mean purely statistically, or do you want my estimation?
Oh, go ahead.
Statistically, I'd have to actually look it up. I don't know. Let's see if you can find it.
Pulling it up right now. Let's see. All right. As far as the AFC East, we have 7 wins for the Dolphins, 7 wins for the Bills, 6 wins for the Patriots, and 6 wins for the Jets. That's a crazy record for division.
That's a lot of wins.
Yeah, let's go to the NFC East. We have 9 wins for the Eagles, 7 wins for the Cowboys, 7 for the Giants, and 6 for the Commanders. Okay, so the NFC still has like a 2-game lead on them.
Yeah, they do. So in terms of games won, they're ahead. In terms of quality, I'm actually going AFC. I'm gonna go AFC East. I think both the Dolphins and the Bills are very serious contenders for the Super Bowl. I don't know about the Giants are, to me, not serious Super Bowl contenders. The Cowboys, I'm kind of torn on, even though the NFC would think is easier. Are you confident the Cowboys are going to beat Minnesota, San Francisco, and the Eagles? I don't know. And then of course Washington is not a Super Bowl contender. And then the Eagles, maybe, but it might just be the quarterback difference. You know, Jalen Hurts and Dak compared to Tua and Josh Allen.
Yeah, that's tough.
That's it. The argument of legitimacy is hard to win for the NFC. Record put aside. So I'll take the AFC as the more legitimately strong conference. Or the AFC East as the legitimate, and the AFC itself is of course much more stronger than the NFC at this point, which is. It's astonishing how big the difference is, actually, especially if you look at quarterbacks.
I expect the Giants to rebound. They're going to have a couple tough games, but once their guys start getting healthy, I think the Giants are going to come around and make a strong push at the very end. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team, not at all. They're going to need many more pieces superstars. They need some superstars. That's what they need. But other than that, I think they'll make a strong end to the season. I think they can come back as soon as some of these guys get healthy again. But, yeah, the Commanders are not really real. Like, yeah, they're winning some games, but they're not really real. I think I got to agree. Even though the numbers say NFC, I think the AFC is a stronger division.
Yep. The AFC is stronger. It's the AFC is very loaded in general.
Oh yeah.
The difference is the starkest when you look at quarterbacks. And I just had this little thought experiment. We're one bad Eagles game away from Jimmy Garoppolo being the best quarterback in the NFC. Like numbers wise and perception wise and everything this year. And yes, that's a division with Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady in it. They're not playing well. And the AFC suddenly, if I asked you to name the top 5 most promising young quarterbacks in the league, you'd probably name 5 AFC guys. You go, okay, Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, obviously, and then maybe Burrow, and then maybe Lamar Jackson. You've named only AFC players suddenly.
Yeah, and maybe even Watson when he gets back. We don't know how he's going to play, but it's a possibility, yeah.
Tua.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tua didn't even put Tua on the list. To put him instead of you have debate. You have to leave Burrow off the list. Who in the NFC you wouldn't even hesitate putting him at number 1 at this point.
To me, just looking at teams, man, it looks like the NFC is where old quarterbacks are coming to die at this point.
It looks like it, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Yeah. There's not a lot. I mean, I know a lot of people have a lot of hopes for Hurts, but I think that's going to fizzle out eventually. And Dak is what it is. He's never going to be a complete superstar. He's capable of winning, but he's not going to be a superstar.
So on the topic of Hurts, he's going to hit that crossroad that Lamar Jackson's on now. And by the way, he's not as good a passer as Lamar is now, so his floor is much lower. He has to develop more. And I don't think Lamar is in danger of falling out of the league within the next 5 years, even if he can't run again. But Hurts, if Hurts is all you only have to pass, you can't run past line of scrimmage.
Oh yeah, it's over.
It'll be uphill battle. It'll be rough. And on the Dak topic, with every passing year and every passing week, and the more that Dak plays, I think back to the debate and how he came to be, and it's ironic to me that he's turning out more and more to just be Romo.
Yeah.
Like he's
absolutely.
He's good. He's a good starting quarterback. He's not going to carry your team to a Super Bowl appearance. He can play, he can have a winning season. Good defense. He'll probably win. He can win a playoff game, maybe.
Yeah.
But he's not a superstar. He's just Romo again.
He is. I've said that before. Like he really is. His career has mirrored Romo in many ways already. He's just following that path, and it makes you wonder if that's a team thing or are they just that similar?
No, I think that's really just you have found 2 slightly above average quarterbacks back to back.
Yeah, guys who weren't drafted to be that also.
Yeah. You can draw those parallels for several teams. Maybe Daniel Jones, Eli, Garoppolo, and Alex Smith.
Oh, yeah.
You see it a lot.
Got a question. What about, we were talking about the running quarterbacks who are losing it. What about Kyler? Is it over for him?
I don't know. He's hurt at the moment. The Cardinals are bad. I don't know. Like, he wanted too much money, of course. Like, he wasn't worth the money he got.
Doesn't learn the plays, apparently, or study, or whatever.
He's an extremely limited passer, and for him, like, this is the realization for these running quarterbacks and why it's very difficult for them to come in the NFL, and people have very legitimate concerns about these guys. As much as people want to make this like about people are stuck in the past or even make it an issue about race, there's legitimate concerns about these running quarterbacks coming into the league because their mindset has to change. The way they've been playing their whole life will no longer work in the NFL.
Yeah.
Which makes these guys a riskier investment. It's simply this. Kyler Murray has won his entire life by being faster than everybody else. He's still faster than everybody else, but the NFL knows how to counter it.
Yeah.
He's not consistently just winning because he's faster than everybody else. Lamar Jackson, same thing. And those quarterbacks suddenly need to change their style of play. They get their wake-up call in the NFL. Whereas someone like... what's a good Justin Herbert, maybe Joe Burrow. Let's take Joe Burrow. he never got that wake-up call. Because if he had relied on being the fastest guy to win games, he'd have been benched in high school.
No, yeah.
He would have never gotten to where he was because he's not that athlete.
Well, that was the problem at Ohio State. That's why he ended up at LSU, is because that's not the style of quarterback they use. Go back through their past 20 years. Every one of them is a certain type of quarterback. And I'm not even saying race, although it all ends up being that. But
yeah, but play style.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and none of them make it. None of them make it in the NFL.
Yeah,
either.
Justin Fields, I mean, if he continues on this path, it might end up the same way for him.
That is related, because those quarterbacks that have been pocket passers, that have had to properly, quote unquote, say properly, because of course the position evolves constantly, but learn to play this position the way that it works in the NFL and genuinely tends to continue the work in the NFL. They have a huge head start. They've been playing like that for 6-7 years and competing at their respective highest level using those tools. Using that approach, and there's a reason we call that offense pro style, even in college, and that is, whenever you look at a scouting report, pro style quarterback, that's an upside. That is not a downside. Running quarterbacks, like spread option offense, those are always on the downside column when you're scouting a quarterback. You can see on the upside like mobility, but the offensive scheme, this play style. That's not an upside in quarterbacks. It still isn't. People want it to be. It's not, because the NFL does not play the Wildcat, and it just doesn't work. Yeah, doesn't work reliably. Yeah, that's what I'd have to say on that. I think Hurts is an enigma. We've said it for the last 2 years. He hasn't shown it then, and I said he's the kind of player who can have breakout games, can have breakout years. I don't know if he can do it consistently in the long run. If he does, he has to change a lot. He'll have to change and adapt a lot. More than others. Doesn't mean he can't do it. He certainly can do it. He's in a good spot. I think Nick Sirianni is doing a great job, and the Eagles have what they need. They got him a phenomenal receiver. They got him a top 5 defense. Oh, yeah. Environment's there, but it's a bigger battle for him than there is for other quarterbacks that have played differently for longer. But we'll see. We'll have to see how it turns out. Our picks for this week. Can we get before we sign off? Quick update and look into the fantasy world.
Yeah, definitely. This week's topic is about playing with fire. I also do want to point out that it's probably your trade deadline either this week or the next week for most leagues, unless you're one of the lucky ones where they extended it. But my topic for this week is playing with fire, and I'm going to be talking about touchdown-dependent players. And how feasible is it to actually run with that rather than getting a more moderate player that is not completely touchdown dependent?
Oh, so like the Jamal Williams type.
Yeah, there you go.
That's right now you're touchdown dependent.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's quite a lot of tight ends, like that was Cole Kmet. That's what actually made me think of it, because Cole Kmet was kind of on a breakout. But when you really look at his numbers, it's touchdown dependent. So you're going to have weeks like this rather than a steady, consistent, Mark Andrews or something like that. Of course, Mark Andrews is a superstar, but we'll get into all that on the Hurry Up Offense.
Okay. That sounds like a very interesting topic. It's a bit nuanced, but I think that's exactly the content you need to go from like the sort of intermediate level and move on to understand the game on a deeper level. So, interested in fantasy football, please go check out the Hurry Up Offense coming up tomorrow before, of course, Thanksgiving football kicks off. You're going to be able to watch that and get your last tips and professional advice going into week 12. And it's crunch time fantasy too, so
absolutely, we're getting there.
If not now, then then when will it be? Make sure to check it out. 3
weeks left of regular season.
So, most important ones coming up. Drop us a like on the video. Go to our channel community page and please vote on your MVP favorites. See what you think. See if Tua, Mahomes, Allen. I feel like are probably going to be the names most commonly said there, but maybe some people have other ideas. Let us know in the comments as well. Give us your picks, any upset ideas maybe, and we're gonna see you in the next one.
Deuces.
Check the scoreboard. Ha. Check.